What's up everybody, Matt Moran here for another car review. This is of course the 2018 Kia Stinger GT. Huge thanks to Kia for providing me with this very nice Stinger to review for you guys today and flying me all the way out to California here for the press launch of the Kia Stinger GT. So about the Stinger GT, well, these things I think look really, really good. You know, they were unveiled at the Detroit Auto Show at the beginning of 2017 here, and man, it just looks awesome. It's really grown on me over the past year, and it looks even better now than it did whenever I first saw it, and especially in person. This thing has a really nice presence to it. Right up front there, you have a nice, large, bold grille. I kind of like the little bullet points you have there throughout it, and these headlights are really nice and beautiful. I love the LED elements you have in them. It's very nicely accented. I like the turn signals with the LEDs. It just looks very cool. And also you have some functional aero up front there too. You have those little vents in the lower front bumper that actually cool the brakes as well as help with higher speed stability as well. So overall, you know, it's actually functional and good looking there for the front end of the Stinger. Coming down to the sides, you have additional little cooling vents here right behind the front wheels. And then it just got this really nice, beautiful fastback kind of sloping roof line to it that looks really good. And then going out back, it's a very good look once again. You know, the taillights do remind me of some other vehicles. You know, it's a very familiar theme these days with the taillights that go across the back and kind of circle back around, but they look very good. I kind of like the uniqueness that this one has here with the little teardrop shape you have running across the rear quarter panel as well. And overall, it's a really great look, especially when you see this thing on the road. Those taillights do look a lot more unique, and overall it's just got a really great presence to it. Just from every single angle you look at this thing, especially in this beautiful red color, it just really pops, and I think they look fantastic. Right, for the interior of the 2018 Kia Stinger GT, well, it is a very nice place to be. So nice that I think if you covered the badges, most people would think they were sitting in an Audi. That's how nice this feels. It's just, the materials everywhere are so nice. Everything you touch, everything you look at, everything is just top notch. But anyway, first things first, sitting down in these seats, very nice Napa leather seats you have here in the GT2 trim. That's what this vehicle is, the GT2 trim, which is the top of the line one. And so, you know, they're right around 50 grand. But at that price, I mean, like I said, it's right up there with all the best of the Germans. So anyway, these seats are super soft and comfortable, but still very supportive. They have adjustable torso bolstering as well, so you can make it as tight or as loose as you want. And even for a thin guy like myself, they can really get nice and snug and really hug me in well. And so really just perfect seats in that regard. Thigh bolstering is also very nice. It comes high enough up that it's aggressive feeling and sporty, but it's not so high that it's, you know, awkward to get in and out of or anything like that. I like the design of them, and overall they're just really great seats. They're heated and cooled as well, and I have to say, I've tried a lot of cooled seats and a lot of them don't work as great as you would expect. These cooled seats I think are the best I've ever used. Honestly, better than Mercedes, any of those. Because the seat bottom actually gets nice and cold, and then the seat back also gets nice and cold as well. And so overall, just a really nicely done seat. Next is the steering wheel in the Stinger GT, which is also very nice. Has a very nice flat bottom to it. Perforated leather here by the 9-3 grip, which by the way is an excellent 9-3 grip. Really feels great. It's not overly thick like you see in a lot of the you know, BMWs and AMGs from Mercedes, all that kind of stuff. They're really thick. This is a little bit thinner, and I like that because it's not quite as much of a handful as it is with those other wheels. So you get a really nice tight grip on it. Nice little 10 and 2 notches. I like the flat bottom a lot. And you have a fair assortment of buttons on here, but they're fairly logically, you know, placed and stuff, so they're very easy to use. The only thing I can say is the paddles. They're metal paddles and they feel very nice, but they're a little bit on the small side, and I wish that for a vehicle that's as sporty as this is, they were a little bit larger, and even would be nicer if they were mounted to the steering column instead of the steering wheel. But I'm nitpicking here. They're still very nice paddles and right on average with what you see with a lot of the other sporty offerings in this segment. And so overall, like I said, a really great wheel. Next are the gauges in the Stinger GT, which are really nice to look at. Just very attractive gauges. Nothing wild or crazy, but just I like, you know, they have a cool font to them. You have metal trim rings around them that look very nice, and just, you know, you have the two basic analog gauges there, and then you have that nice large center digital portion that has a couple of different menus there to scroll through. You have your compass, all your settings and driver assistance stuff and all that, and then you have actually a performance page there, so it'll have a G-force meter that's very cool to look at. You have lap timer, and then you have oil temp, torque, and boost gauges all listed there, and so good to have all of those. Yeah, and then you also have a digital speedometer in there and things like that as well. And overall, it's a really nice little digital portion. It also turns a little more reddish whenever you're in sport mode, but overall, just a really nice set of gauges. Coming over to the center of the dashboard here, it's more very nice stuff. But anyway, right up top, you have the UVO infotainment screen that these Kias have, and it's really a nice system. Very high resolution, a good size to it as well. It's a little bit of a reach, that's the only thing I will say, but I'm thankful that it's just touchscreen. There aren't any scroller wheels or anything like that to worry about. It's just you touch it and it's very simple. I love touchscreens. I think it's just much easier to use. And on the home screen here, you have the nav, and then you have your audio info there, and the navigation is a pretty nice, high quality looking graphics and stuff for it, and overall, pretty good. And then you have all your controls for the radio and things like that, which are all nicely laid out as well and pretty easy to use. And then you also have your additional menus you can go into, and it's swipe capable, all that kind of stuff. But you have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto there on that screen, and that's a huge benefit these days to have that. I think that makes it a lot easier too, especially combined with the touchscreen. You can just use it like your phone and you're set. And so really nice they've integrated that, and overall a really nice infotainment screen. While we're talking about the infotainment, I briefly want to mention this Harman Kardon sound system, which is a surround sound system here, and it's 720 watts. There's subwoofers under each of the front seats as well, and it is a really high quality sound system. They gave us some sample stuff to listen to, and we've also been listening to even just satellite radio and stuff, and it just sounds so good on this stereo. It is a really nice, lots of bass, really a powerful sounding radio, and even on like 1 or 2 volume, it's still like fairly loud for a setting that low. It's just really a powerful system, and I love the really attractive speaker grills you have here as well. They're metal and look like $1 million as well. And so just a little side note there, but very well done audio system here in the Stinger GT as well. Coming down to your air vents here, which are turbine inspired and look very cool. You'll also see this area is actually covered with what seems like more leather. It's squishy and just feels really nice. Again, like nothing feels cheap. Even the top of the instrument panel here has some nice stitching to it, and just every square inch of this thing feels really nice, and I'm impressed. And I can continue on with that theme here. Coming down, you have these metal buttons for your shortcuts for radio, media, nav, all that kind of stuff, and again, feels so nice. The volume and tune knobs, you can actually feel each individual click of it, and it just feels really nice. It has a good heavy weight and resistance to the volume knobs. Again, Kia, they really went and fine-tuned every little detail. Every little detail of this car really feels nice. It's not like, just tinsel on the outside and it looks nice, but it doesn't feel nice. Everything actually feels as nice as it looks. All the metal is real metal trim. Everything, they went 100% for this thing. There's no corner cutting here. It feels easily like a $50,000 car, easily. It's really impressive. Coming down, you have your climate controls, which again have these very nice resistance to the knobs there as well, and more metal. You have some plastic buttons there to fill it in the middle as well. But overall, I mean, even the plastic buttons feel just as nice as Audi plastic. So everyone still uses plastic in one capacity or another, I think, outside of Mercedes. So totally fine to have that. And so overall, like I said, everything that you come in contact with here in the whole instrument panel, it just looks and feels really nice. A few other nice little touches as far as the controls go here on the Stinger GT. You have this very nice little shifter, which again is very much inspired, I think, by Audi. Looks great, looks and feels just as nice as all those. It's a really nice, I like how it's compact and small. You also have a nice little small rotary knob here for the drive modes, and nice and compact there, so it's not a huge selector like you see on some other vehicles, and nicely done there. And then I really like how they consolidated the heated and cooled seat controls into a little rocker switch. Instead of having a bunch of individual buttons, you just have a little rocker switch there, and really nicely integrated there. You also have your heated steering wheel and your auto stop start off and your parking sensor toggle there. But overall, everything is very nicely laid out in here. As far as storage space in the Stinger GT, it's quite good. So first off, in the doors here, you have a large map pocket with a bottle holder, which is always nice to see. Coming over to the middle here, you have this nice cover that's actual heavy metal, and you push it back with a nice resistance, and then you'll see a nice little little cubby there that is probably big enough to fit a small smartphone, but a little too small to actually fit a smartphone in there and actually use the cover to cover it up. But anyway, there you'll find a traditional power outlet. You'll have 2 USB jacks, one for charging and one for, you know, using with the infotainment, and then an auxiliary jack as well. And so nice to have all of those in there. And then coming over, you have your 2 cup holders, which are a good size. Then you come back and you have another little additional area here where you can fit like the key, sunglasses, you know, small little things like that. And then you have the center armrest, which is pretty firm, but it is padded with this nice, again, high quality Napa leather. Feels really good. And anyway, you open that up and you have a pretty large and long center cubby. You can fit a ton of things in there. You have this additional little tray up top that you can actually remove or, you know, leave in there. But lots and lots of space in there. Unfortunately, there isn't another USB jack. I would have liked to see another USB jack, at least one in here, so you can put your phone in the center console and have it, you know, hidden out of the way. But, you know, still very good nonetheless. And like I said, just a ton of space in there, so really well done. Another really nice thing about the Stinger GT is this large moonroof that you have. It's not quite, you know, panoramic roof where it goes all the way back, but that's okay because it's still just a nice, just very large, wide opening for this moonroof. And it does actually open as well. It doesn't just, you know, show you glass. You can actually open it up and get an open air kind of experience in it. And so really nicely done moonroof too. Backseat space in the Stinger GT really surprised me with just how spacious it is. A very nice back seat. It's very comfortable back there, and like I said, just tons of space. I'm 5'9". Me sitting behind myself, I have easily about 6 inches of legroom to spare, which even beats some of the 5 Series and vehicles like that out there these days. I mean, I was just shocked just how much space. I think part of that is thanks to the long wheelbase you have here in the Stinger GT. Just gives you tons and tons of rear seat room, and headroom is actually quite good as well. Even though this is this fastback, you know, profile, like I said, being 5'9", I have about probably 2 inches to spare above my head there. But like I said, you'll have no problem fitting anyone really tall back there because you have tons and tons of legroom to work with. And overall, just a really nice back seat. You have 2 additional air vents there. You'll find also another USB jack and a power outlet back there as well. There's a full down center armrest with 2 cup holders. And overall, it's just a really nice back seat. Trunk space in the Stinger GT is excellent. It's outstanding. I would say it's right on par with a lot of crossovers. 23.3 cubic inches of storage space back there in the trunk. So it is just massive. I mean, it's a very wide opening, and all the way to the bulkhead there, it's very wide and wide open. You can just fit a ton of stuff in there, and it's, you know, you do have the fastback roofline, but you still have a lot of clearance. So you can stack things really well back there as well. And so just a ton of space. You also do have an actual donut spare tire there under the floor, and overall just a ton of space. And you can also fold down those rear seats if you want. And then, I mean, you have a loading space that's as long as some small pickup trucks. I mean, it's a ton of space. And so overall, just a very versatile cargo area here in the Stinger GT. All right, so start up and go for a drive. The Kia Stinger GT has this brand new Kia key, which is really nice. It actually has like some leather feeling material on it here, nice stitching and metal, and just looks and feels like $1,000,000. Again, just so impressed. Every little detail of this car is nice. And so, yeah, of course, keyless entry and push button start here. So you just leave the key in your pocket, hit the metal engine stop start button, and it starts right up. All right, so setting off in the 2018 Kia Stinger GT. Well, as you might have noticed, the interior color has changed. We've been in and out of cars all day, so now I'm in this one, this very nice dark red leather that looks great. But anyway, visibility-wise, the Stinger GT is excellent. Very easy to see out of. You have nice thinner A-pillars here that I really like, and just a very good view forward with a large windshield. View out of the sides is pretty good. You have the blind spot monitoring and things like that to help you out with your blind spots as well. But very easy to see out of the sides. And view out of the back is about what you would expect from a normal two-door coupe. It's a little bit of a slimmer, kind of profile there in the back, thanks to the fastback roofline. But overall, it's not too bad to see out of. It's not the best, it's not ideal, but not too bad at all. Alrighty, so let's turn down onto this back road here and see how it does. We'll go manual first gear. Here we go. Little delay, and then it takes off. Okay, so I wouldn't call it vicious, but it pulls strong. So this has the 3-liter twin-turbo V6 engine that has 365 horsepower, 376 pound-feet of torque, and it'll do 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds. And man, this thing feels so good though. So we're just right on these very aggressive corners here of the Angeles Crest Highway, and This thing feels so poised. It feels really good. So this is the rear-wheel drive version that I'm in currently. We'll be able to drive an all-wheel drive in a little bit, but man, it's just really sharp handling. It's amazing. The steering is a little bit on the lighter side, but it is still very direct and does feel very precise, and it's got a good sound to it too. It sounds a little bit like a more refined version of a VQ motor. I'll drop it down here, and you be the judge of that. But I think it sounds really good, actually. It does sound like it may be a little bit of help audio-wise from the speakers. I'm not totally sure on that, but you know, you can hear some revving clips. It does sound good from the outside as well. And they actually went to great lengths to make the American version of the Stinger GT a little more loud, because they said that Americans want more exhaust note, and so that's something they actually did specifically for the American market here. So it does have a very good sound to it. I'm really liking the way that it sounds. It doesn't sound really turbocharged though. I don't really hear any wastegate or whistling or anything like that. It sounds actually like it's naturally aspirated. Other things to note here though, I'm driving it in sport mode here, and it's fairly sharp. I would say it's not razor sharp as far as throttle response, but I think that's part of it just being turbocharged. You always have a little bit of a disconnect there, because you're always waiting for the turbo to spool up a little bit. There isn't really much lag, but there is just a beat delay until it comes on full on with that power. Other thing, there's a good amount of pedal travel as well. There's not a ton of bite right at the top of the pedal, but once you get about 1/3 of the way into it, that's where you really get a nice bite. This has Brembo's 4-piston Brembo brakes, and they feel really good. Once you get on them, I mean, they haul you down to a stop very, very well. And good mid-range power too here in the Stinger GT. Pulling from 3,000 RPMs in third gear, it's still, well, it just automatically downshifts you to second. That's one thing. So this has the 8-speed automatic. It's a in-house Kia 8-speed automatic. It's not a ZF or anything like that. And so far, what I can tell, the shifts are very quick, but it does want to have a little bit of a mind of its own. There is no dedicated forcing it to stay in manual mode. You can start using the paddles and it'll go into a manual mode, but it will upshift for you, and try and help you out, I guess. But yeah, I wish it would just stay manual, because there's times, like I said, where I want to do something in third gear and do a third gear pull, and it's just like, no, we'll just downshift instead, which is fine, but it would be nice to have complete control over the transmission there. But while we are controlling it here, I mean, it's really pretty close to a ZF 8-speed. I think the upshift speed is just a hair off. Downshifts, though, actually feel just about as quick as a ZF 8, which is really impressive. Again, for something in-house, from Kia, I think they've done a very good job here so far. I'm really impressed with this transmission. I misspoke earlier and said it was a 3-liter, but it's actually a 3.3 liter, and I think you do feel the displacement of it there. It's not quite as small as some of these other turbocharged V6s, and you can feel a little bit of that additional grunt. That 376 pound-feet of torque is really impressive. And they were telling us during the little briefing of how this has more power than all the German competitors in this segment. The S5 Sportback, the base Porsche Panameras, even the BMW 440i Grand Coupe, and even 640i Grand Coupes. I mean, it's a ton of power for a car that weighs in this trim about 3,900 pounds for the Stinger GT non-all-wheel drive. The all-wheel drive, I think, puts it a little over 4,000 pounds. And you do feel the weight, especially in Angeles Forest Crest, where these are very challenging corners. I think if you were on some stuff that was a little less challenging, you would never even feel the weight, because it's so flat with its handling. It just doesn't have really much lean or anything to it. One of the more recent vehicles that has the same exact motor that I drove was the G80 Sport. That had a lot more body motion. It still felt very good, and it was a little softer and more luxurious, and that's what it was set up for. So it made sense. But this, it's a marked difference. You still have that same great, very punchy motor, but you do have just way flatter handling. The motions forwards and backwards is also a lot less, and overall it just feels like a much tighter package than you get with the G80 Sport. I think this is definitely far sportier and feels really good. It's kind of amazing too how this thing really disguises the speed. You know, you don't feel like you're going super fast, then you look down, you're like, man, this thing is hauling, and it really, it's kind of surprising just how fast this thing picks up speed. I mean, those numbers don't lie. 4.7 seconds 0 to 60 is really quick for something in this segment, especially at this price point as well. But we have a tunnel, which means we must go down to first gear, and here we go. Open the windows. Sounds pretty good. Of course, you can always use more volume, but it does sound very, very good. And you know, Borla already has a system ready to go for these things, so if you want more sound, that's already available and ready to go, which is awesome. They've worked with the aftermarket to really make sure this is a good performance enthusiast offering, so that you know you can have as much customization as you want right off the bat. They already have lowering springs available, anti-sway bars, all that kind of stuff already if you want to go one step further with it. But as a whole from this car already, it's very, very impressive.
Yep.
Launch control ready. There we go. Yeah, that's better. So we just discovered launch control. I'm here with Sofyan from Redline Reviews, guys, and yeah, we're here, you know, we're drive partners for this Stinger, and yeah, I did my first couple accelerations there, and it wasn't quite as impressive. The turbo took a second to kick on there, but with launch control enabled, that's where that turbo comes on boil, and felt pretty quick. Did it feel good for you?
Yeah, I mean, you had a much better smile than the last acceleration clip, but
yeah.
the lag kind of disappeared, it looked like.
It seems like it really did. We actually have another space.
Yeah, should we try it again?
Yeah,
we should try it again.
Yeah, that was just too much fun. All right.
Oh.
Nice. Yeah, that's where it rips your head off. That was pretty cool. One other thing I do want to note, though, is the tire setup. So this has the wonderful Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires on it, which are really, I mean, basically the best tires in the business currently. So, I mean, Kia picked the best tire they possibly could here for it, and I think it certainly helps. But the width of the tires, they're 225 wide in the front, and then 255, I believe, in the rear, at least for the rear-wheel drive version. And so there's also a limited slip diff, which helps in the back to, you know, keep that power down. And I will say that it does have a lot of grip, but I think it could use a little bit of a wider tire in the front. Even 235s would probably help, because I mean it certainly has plenty of grip, and I'm really pushing it here in Angeles Forest as far as, you know, way more than you're going to most likely see on even your average back road. But I do feel that at that point, you know, it's got a little bit of a limit where I wish it had a little more grip up front at that point. And I can kind of feel, I think, the torque vectoring or something working there to help me out a little bit. But I mean, it still is very planted and stable for the most part. It is a tiny bit twitchy in the back end there too if you get on the power, you know, even with all the ESC and stuff on, which makes it fun, but it's also a little unpredictable, which keeps you on your toes, but that's more exciting that way, I think. And you know, but otherwise, I think if you want the fully 100% awesome grip, you just go for the all-wheel drive version, which is still rear biased in its all-wheel drive setup, but will obviously help you out with your grip if you happen to be lacking at any point in time. But yeah, overall, this thing just feels so competent. Again, even on something very challenging like this, and you have to keep in mind this is still a Grand Tourer. This is not a sports car. This is supposed to be a luxury sports sedan, really, with awesome hatch versatility. And I think it's kind of a jack of all trades in a way, where it still can hold its own on back roads and be very, very impressive, very entertaining and thrilling. But also, you know, it's a little bit on the softer side in some ways. Like I said, I wish the tires were a little bit wider, maybe. A couple things like that, but that's really the only nitpick I can find, because this thing is phenomenal. You know, one of the best cars I think I've driven this year, honestly. Or like I said, the G80 had a few little shortcomings. It was a little more too luxury for the sport name, whereas this, it certainly lives up to the looks of it and the you know, the performance that you're expecting from it. I think it certainly delivers. All right, so now I'm just cruising on the highway here, and this is where this thing is really, really nice. So I'm in comfort mode now, just cruising, you know, like 75, and it's really smooth. You know, over some of the harsher expansion joints, you feel it a little bit more, but you know, I would say that it feels sporty, but it doesn't feel rough by any means. It feels very refined. You don't really hear much wind noise. Tire noise is pretty low as well, relatively speaking. And it feels really great. I could see myself driving 10 hours in one of these things and not being phased at all. It's really comfortable. And so overall, like I said, this is just a great cruiser. You have the heads-up display, all the safety tech and lane keep assist, all that kind of stuff to help you. You have adaptive cruise here in the GT2 trim level, which is the one that we're currently in. And overall, it's just a really nice thing to cruise down the highway in too. But I'm going to drive it around here the rest of the afternoon, and I'll come back and give you guys some of my final thoughts. Alright, so I've been driving the Kia Stinger GT for a while now, and man, these things are just so much fun. So now I'm in a different one. It's a Destroyer Gray with a red leather interior, and they're really impressive. I actually got a chance to take them around an autocross course as well during the day here, and I also was able to do the all-wheel drive version on the autocross to kind of get a feel for how that handles differently, and it doesn't handle that much differently. I was really impressed. You do feel the weight a little bit more because that weighs, I think, just over 4,000 pounds, so 100, 150 pounds more maybe than the rear-wheel drive version, but it still felt really nice and neutral. Even when you're pushing on an autocross course, it would work with you with the stability control to really help with the torque vectoring and all that to pull you out of the corners. And the all-wheel drive system is a rear biased all-wheel drive system, and it can send up to 50% of the torque to the front wheels, but that's it. So it's most of the time it has more than 50% to the rear at all times. And so because of that, it really feels very similar to the rear-wheel drive version in that way. And so that's a really, really great thing. And it's just, I'm really loving the Stinger GT. It is just so, I had such high hopes for this car. And like I said, it's not perfect. I still wish that the brakes had a little bit more bite at the top of the pedal. I wish throttle response was maybe a tiny bit sharper, but honestly, I'm nitpicking. I'm looking for things that I like, because I love driving this thing. It kind of feels a little bit smaller than some of the competition out there, and it feels tossable and playful, and it doesn't feel intimidating. Especially now I've been driving it for several hours, it just fits like a glove to me. It just really is it's so friendly. You can lean on it and push those tires, but they're very progressive in the way that it breaks away. It never has scared me. It's always given me more and more confidence and made me want to just drive faster and faster, to be perfectly honest. And this thing is fast. It gets up to speed deceptively fast. It's just such a good package. Everything's nice and tight. And I gotta say, this is also a pre-production model, and even still, there's no rattles or squeaks. Everything, like I said, feels really well put together and nice and tight. And so and the whole car, the whole suspension feels tight. Everything it's firm, and the suspension always feels very planted, but not so much that it beats you up. It's really perfectly straddling this Grand Tourer thing, where it'll keep up with you on a back road, it'll do an autocross day with you if you want, but then you can just drive home in complete comfort and ease. And it's, you have this awesome, very powerful Harman Kardon sound system to listen to. It's a very refined Grand Tourer, just an excellent all-around car in every single way. And you have tons of backseat space, so you can fit all your friends or family or whoever in the back. Tons of cargo space that's, even better than a lot of crossovers. And so it's just, there's no shortcomings really. I can't find a single thing. It just does everything so well. And I just absolutely love this thing. And so, yes, if you want something that is fun and all-wheel drive, that's versatile, and will put a smile on your face, this should be high on your list. And the last thing I want to mention is the price of it, because that's where Kias are always an excellent value, and they're good enough. Like the Stinger is good enough, you don't even have to talk about the value of it. At any price, this car is a ton of fun, and compared to the stuff it's competing against, the Audi S5 Sportback, even the BMW 440i Grand Coupe, the 640i Grand Coupe, all these cars it outperforms at way less money, at least $10,000 less than all of those. And so it's just a really impressive thing at any price. But like I said, whenever you factor in the price of it, it is a very compelling package all around. Like I said, these things for a base Stinger GT, you can get one. Well, not the GT. You can get a base Stinger for I think $32. You can get a base GT with this motor and everything and all the performance goodies for $38,000. And then, like I said, this one's the GT2 with the Napa leather and some of the other nicer upgrades, the driver safety systems and all that. And like I said, this one I think is like $52 plus $2,000 if you want to add on the all-wheel drive. So yeah, some people will be like, oh no, $50,000 for a Kia. But like I said, all the competitors start in the low 50s. They don't even get close to the price of this thing. And so, and like I said, this interior, if you were to cover the badges, I think most people would think they're sitting in an Audi. I think it's that nice. But yeah, so anyway, we'll do one last acceleration here to go. This thing is just too much fun. And here we go. A little bit of a delay if you don't use launch control, but then it just takes off. Oh, I love this thing. Oh, it's just so much fun. So anyway, huge thanks once again to Kia for hooking me up with this awesome Stinger GT to review for you guys today. Let me know all your thoughts on the Stinger GT in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.